Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Answer is Yes podcast, where we will explore the cause and effect of just saying yes in your everyday life or in business. I will dig into topics that are not just stimulating, but will challenge you to be better in everything you do. The podcast is based on the simplicity of saying yes to opportunities you might encounter every single day. I'm your host, Jim Riley. Join me in my first series titled Blue Collar Redefined. Hello and welcome to The Answer is Yes. I'm in Salinas, California. I often travel and bring my podcast equipment with me. As many of you know, I do some consulting along the way, and I'm at a wonderful place called Harvest Pacific Farms. I was in a hotel in Monterey this morning, waking up to that beautiful harbor and bay right there, and got a little run in. So my day is starting out the right way, and I absolutely believe that today's guest is going to inspire you, and you will feel the same about your day after hearing this show. So I have Alexa Fischer on the line this morning. Alexa, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm terrific. Thank you so much for having me.
I can tell that we're going to have a lot to talk about reading your bio and some of the things that you've done.
Yes, it is true. You know, I just, first of all, the name of your podcast just says everything to me, because I definitely am one of those individuals who lives life with a yes attitude. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's my theatrical training. When you learn improvisation, there's a rule. Yes. If you don't say but and you change it to a negative, or like you stop the improvisation, it's like yes and. Oh, here we are in this situation. Yes and. And I think that life can very much emulate that and be an improvisation, where you're looking at all the possibilities that are in front of you and then just making some really fun choices.
Well, not too often has yes steered me the wrong way. Especially since I got out of high school. I haven't made too many wrong yeses. But, I think oftentimes we get in our own way from saying yes because there's doubt in our minds. And the reward for saying yes could be so great. And I wish people that would do it more often. It sounds like you've got a lot of yeses in your life.
I do. And it's not always easy. And there's not even a way that you can interpret it and say, oh, they were all correct, because really the moments in my life where I made the greatest jump, the greatest discovery, the greatest breakthrough were from very uncomfortable moments. Those moments of doubt where you were like, oh my God, what have I done? And maybe I've made this wrong decision, or I've wasted time, or I've wasted opportunity. And that uncomfortable feeling pushed me in a new direction, so that my discomfort gave me that leap to go to someplace new, mm-hmm. And I think that sort of anecdotally, when people say, what is the one thing that people regret at the end of their life when they're reflecting back? And that is not taking those chances, because why not? We're only dancing on this earth for however long we are. And why not make that big leap if you have this idea? And it's what I've been teaching people for a long time, long before I started my company, wishBEADS. And I think that attitude has really driven and held me as I did all those twists and turns as an entrepreneur and as a creator, and someone who had to take a bunch of faith moves and test the waters. And it's from that place of discomfort that I made the greatest discoveries. Yeah.
I've looked back at some of the show notes about your history and your career. Oftentimes I like to take people back to their youth and find out where their career started. And I'm just not sure where I start with you, because you've had such a vast career across the board. But can you pick a starting point where you started saying yes in your life? A lot of people start all the way back when they were paper boys or girls, but I'm happy to start where you're comfortable at.
Well, I'll tell you, there is a theme. When I look back, there's really been 3 distinct chapters of my career thus far. And I say thus far because, who knows what's going to happen in the future? I've got a lot of life left. And for me, the through line has always been my love of people. And from the time I was a little child, I always loved this. I just loved people. I was the kid who was talking to strangers in the park. Both of my parents worked, and my mom had maternity stores. So I'd be in the shop talking to people, helping people. And I was little, 9, 8, whatever. And when I was in high school, I had some wonderful teachers, and one in particular who was an acting teacher. And I started learning, I guess we were doing a workshop, Studs Terkel, Working. That it's a wonderful book if you have never read it, but it also was translated into a play. But we were really focused on studying these stories of people and becoming and asking, who are these people? What challenges do they face? Where are they in their moment when they're sharing their life work? And because it was sort of a very interesting perspective in acting, that really got me curious. And I started doing all the plays, and I took that love of theater and I went and studied acting as undergraduate at Northwestern. I worked in Chicago after. I ended up going to the Yale School of Drama for graduate school, getting my MFA in acting. And when I graduated, I was like, I'm going to go to New York and I'm going to be an actress on the stage. But what I quickly realized, if you wanted to work professionally in New York on the stage, you actually had to be a TV person, because that's who was getting cast.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And I wasn't a musical theater person, so I wasn't about to, get on Broadway singing and dancing. It was really just straight acting. And interestingly enough, my big break came by doing a show called Glimmer, Glimmer and Shine at the Mark Taper Forum, which is one of the premier stage theaters in Los Angeles. And when I was out here, of course, I met all my agents that were like, what are you doing in New York? You need to be in LA and making TV and film. And I knew I did not want to be a regional theater actress, traveling around to all the stages. I just had done so much acting on stage at Yale that I wanted some more stability. I was getting married. And so anyway, I started doing TV and film. And to be honest with you, it was going well. I was a guest starring on all kinds of shows. I was almost a series regular on many different TV shows. But the interesting thing is that the more that I spent time on set, the more I realized this was really not really satisfying to me.
Really?
And the love of people, no. And so it was baffling to people, because they're like, oh my God, you're on this show, you're on that show, this, oh wow. And when I was there, I felt like I didn't really belong. Huh. Like I just, some people were there like, this is the greatest thing ever. And I thought, oh no, what have I done? And it all came to a head when I was working on the TV show Bones, and I was playing a lawyer, and something bad happened to my character. And I'm laying on the filthy floor of the LA Times building where we were filming, and I had fake blood coming out of my mouth, because that's what happened to my character. And I'm laying there and I'm waiting for the lights and I'm waiting for the sound, because most people don't know that to make television and film, there is a tremendous amount of waiting around. Mm-hmm. It just takes time. That's the business side of it that you don't know.
Yeah.
And I somehow have a very interesting relationship with time, and I'm greatly aware that we have this precious time on this planet. So anytime I have a perception that I'm, quote, wasting time, it just grates at my soul. This may not be a great perception because it's all an illusion, but that's a discussion for another time. But I was in this moment laying on the floor, fake blood coming out, waiting for the lights, waiting for the sound, waiting. And I really had that moment where I went, oh my goodness, what on earth am I doing with my life? Like, if this is it, if this is what I've worked so hard to do, my love of people, et cetera, and so forth, this is not enough for me. It's not enough. And I felt great panic and great despair, because I had worked really hard. And I really didn't know what was next. And I didn't know how to translate all of those skills into anything else. And in that moment, I did one of those classic, like prayers to the universe, like, give me a sign. Oh my goodness, please give me a sign. Mm-hmm. And would you know it? But 2 days later, would you know it? A woman who's a dear friend now called me up out of the blue and said, Alexa, I'm starting a new business. I have a very high profile client and I need a media trainer. And she's got a huge event. She needs some training. And I just thought of you. And without even thinking, out of my mouth came, yes, I would love to help her. I would love it. Because suddenly I realized that I had this well of information about not just what do I do with my hands and how do I look confident, but more importantly, how do I tap into and help people overcome those moments of hesitation and connect with their true message, connect with what I call their 1,000-watt presence, this inner light that they have, that everybody has. Everybody is born with it. And when they can reconnect to that and learn how to be confident and comfortable in their own skin, they can truly communicate their message, whether it's on stage, on camera, one-on-one, in sales. And that one moment unlocked the second chapter of my career.
All right.
And that is as a communication coach.
Now I got to back you up for a minute. This is what I normally do, because that was a lot of incredible information about your past and a lot of major decisions that you made. What I completely understand that you're at a point that, you know, you're on set and it's a lot of waiting around. I did a couple shows and I realized after you said that, wow, that was a lot of waiting around for one scene. I actually did a lot of cooking on TV. I remember doing the Channel 13 News in Sacramento, and I waited, and then my whole bit was like less than a minute. Like this was an all-day experience for 1 minute of airtime. And to them, it was perfect.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, thank you. I'm like, wow, I can imagine that. But here you are, successful. Apparently, you know, your friends, you're on all these great shows, you're probably making great money, but at the same time, you realize that's not what you want to be doing. How hard was it to take that step and realize, like, okay, I'm going to step away from what appears to be successful in society and go do something else? Because I think we can look at, you know, the college student that's going to school for law, but they don't want to be a lawyer, but they feel all this pressure to be a lawyer or a doctor or something. You know, having the power and the strength to go do something else. What did that take for you to do that?
Well, it's such a great point, because there was a lot of embarrassment to myself. I mean, nobody was being hard on me. I've always said I'm my own boss, you know. No one's hard on me. I'm hardest on myself. And I had all the thoughts of, what are my agents going to say? What are my parents going to say? What is my husband going to say? What are my friends going to say? Are they going to interpret it that I'm not a successful enough actress, so I'm giving up on my, quote, dream? Like, all of these narratives, these sort of subconscious narratives do come up. But I'm also a wildly practical person. And so I didn't quit acting right away. Mm-hmm. What I did instead was I said yes, and I was acting and I was doing this other thing. And in fact, I overlapped the two for a couple of years until, I was still making money, getting my insurance and doing my work. And I would tell my agents, hey, I'm doing this other thing. Like, this is what I see. And, you know, and we were very friendly with one another. So they're like, okay, they're used to actors and actresses, first of all, being a lot more strange than I am. I mean, I'm very straight and narrow and very like super responsible, and they're used to like crazy actors and actresses. So they were like, cool, that's, you know, do your thing. It was much harder for them when I got to a place where I was so busy coaching and teaching and doing it that I actually couldn't make it to my auditions. Mm-hmm. That I said, unless you have something that's like one of my casting directors who really call me back and they, you know, they're just like, we just have a role for Alexa. Can she, you know, do this? I would do it, because I still do like to act. I did a transition period. I really made sure that I didn't like make this dramatic thing that said, I'm leaving it forever, and I'm going to start this new thing, because the pressure of that adds another layer. Yeah. And I think that when you're in those transition phases, this idea of leaning in with curiosity is a really important thing, as opposed to, I'm going to show it to everybody. I'm going to prove it to myself. I'm going to talk about it with a lot of people and make some grand declaration, because what it sets up this whole other layer where you do sort of feel watched and judged. And I didn't want that. So I really just started saying yes, but in a quiet way. Yes, in a curious way. And when there was a moment when I translated my work, I didn't even translate my work. I had to figure out what my methodology was. And at the time, you know, everyone has to learn how they teach. And I'd be curious to know, you know, in your own world, how you translated all of your expertise and then became a life coach. But for me, when I was saying, okay, what is my methodology? Because I did work with this one client. It went really well. She was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in front of all of these people, and I would love to introduce you, because people would want to know what you did with me, and you can help them. Mm-hmm. You should create a website. You should create a program. You should create, and so it was all these ideas. So what I did at the time was I had a room above my parents' garage. Yeah, this is how fancy it was. A room above my parents' garage. It was a nice room, by the way, but I sat with a video camera, and this was many years ago, like a little video camera on a tripod, and I created my first video course, because that was actually how I taught.
Mm-hmm.
I taught probably because of my training on camera. I thought through all the modules and how I would take people through a course called Speak Up, Stand Out, which is still available for purchase. And